Alright, welcome back. Today we're going to be covering router on a stick, which is inter-VLAN communication. It's a form of having VLANs communicate with other VLANs. So in this here, we're on Cisco Packet Tracer, we have VLAN 10 and then we have VLAN 20. The goal for the video is to essentially show you how we can configure router on a stick, right? To have these VLANs, right, communicate with each other. So essentially having devices in VLAN 10, so PC0 talk to PC2 in VLAN 20. So I just want to show you what I've set up so far. So if you go onto the switch, we'll run the show VLAN brief command, and as you can see, we've set up the VLANs and the ports are already there. Really all that we need to do is go ahead and make this port, right, connecting switch to the router, a trunk port. And then we also need to configure the router, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and start by configuring the router. Click no. We'll go to configure terminal. And what I want to show you is how to essentially create the interfaces, the sub-interfaces for the VLANs on the router. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go and jump into interface gigabit 00, and we're going to create the respective sub-interfaces for each VLAN. So this would be the sub interface for VLAN 10, interface gigabit 000.10. I want to go ahead and add the IP address, right, for this network, which will be 192.168.10.1 with the subnet mask of /24. And this essentially is going to be the default gateway. And as you can see, I've actually gotten an error message, and that's because I forgot to do encapsulation. .1Q, and then we'll do the VLAN ID. And now we'll be able to go ahead and add the IP address. As you can see, okay, so that interface has been created. I'll go ahead and show you. Do show IP interface brief. As you can see, right, we have this interface that's been created. And then the next thing that I want to go ahead and do is now create the other interface, right? 0, 20, and then we'll do encapsulation .1Q 20, add the IP address, the subnet mask, right, and then do show brief, right? And essentially now here, what I want to go ahead and do on the switch, so I've configured the sub interfaces, right, for the VLANs, right? So here what I want to go ahead and do is on the specific port that's connecting the switch to the router, I want to go ahead and make this a trunk port so that the VLANs can go ahead and pass through the port. So switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk, allow VLAN 10 and 20. Spelled that wrong. Switch port mode trunk, allow VLAN 10 and then 20. Allow trunk, okay. Switch port trunk, allow VLAN 10, 20. So now if I show you the trunk interface, do show interface trunk, sorry. Oh, I forgot to do no shutdown on the interface, and then also need to do no shutdown on this interface. Okay, and then what I want to go ahead and show you is the trunks. Sorry, the trunk port, right? So you can see now, VLANs allowed on this interface 01 going to the router 1020, right? So now, if I wanted to go ahead and ping, just gonna make this. I'm gonna make the default gateway that for PC, also for PC 1, 2, PC2, PC3, 168.20.1. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and try communicating now. So let's go ahead and try to ping. So now this is PC0 pinging PC2, right? Which is in a separate VLAN, right? As you remember previously, where we were not able to ping PC0 to PC2 because there was no inter-VLAN communication happening, right? There was no layer 3 device that was allowing us to communicate from VLAN 10 to VLAN 20, right? When you don't have a layer 3 device, there's no inter-VLAN communication that can take place. But now that we have that inter-VLAN communication happening through this router on a stick, you're able to see that PC0 is able to ping PC2, right? Let's try PC3. Let's go ahead and try and ping PC1. We'll get a request timeout and then we'll get a response, right? So to quickly go over this, so we already had the VLANs configured, right? The VLANs were already configured on the switch. So we created VLAN 10, we created VLAN 20, we added the ports, right, to each VLAN. So Fast Ethernet 01, 02 were added to VLAN 10, Fast Ethernet 03 and 04 were added to VLAN 20. And then here we created a trunk port, right, to allow for VLAN 10 and 20 to pass through to the router, right? So go back to the commands. We made this a switch port mode trunk, and we allowed VLAN 10 and 20, right? And then on the router, we essentially created subinterfaces, right? We created the subinterfaces for VLAN 10, added the IP address, but before we did that, we added the encapsulation, did the same thing for VLAN 20, and then there we go. So now let's say I added another VLAN, right? I want to show you, let's add some more PCs just to kind of show you through the process of what needs to take place, right? Like that. So we'll say this is going to be a separate VLAN. This will be VLAN 30, right? Okay, and then this will have 192.168. Okay, So let's go ahead and on the PCs, let's configure the IPs. 8.30.2. Make that the default gateway. PC5. Okay, and then on the switch, remember to create a VLAN, go ahead and say VLAN 30. We'll call this, we'll just say HR, and then we'll go into the interfaces and add those. So we have the interfaces would be 5 and 6, right? So we can use the range command. And I want to go ahead and move this here just so you all can see. 6, and then we do switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 30, right? And if we go ahead and show the VLAN, you can see we have 5 and 6, right? Now let's go on to the router. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the router, and we need to create a new subinterface, right? So what we're going to go ahead and do is create that subinterface. Do encapsulation. Q30. And then we'll go ahead and add the IP address, right? For the gateway. Okay. And then we're pretty much all set on the router, right? So let me just show you. The subinterface is created with the IP address assigned. And now, what we also need to go ahead and do on the switch is we need to add the VLAN to the trunk port. So, interface keep it 0, 1. Switch port mode trunk. Switch port trunk add VLAN 30. Trunk add switch port trunk add. Let me see the command allowed. Let's see, switch port trunk allowed add VLAN 30. Okay, so I was messing up on the command, but there you go. So as you can see now, do show in interface trunk, we have 30 there, right? So now let's try pinging, right? Let's try now pinging those devices. 168.30.2. We'll get a request timeout for the first ping, and then the others should be successful. Oh, 1 second. Okay, so there you go. So on the first one, it was taking a second, but now as you can see, the pings are working. So let me do a ping from here to there. 192.168.10.2. You can see we're getting a reply. Awesome. So this was the router on a stick, inter-VLAN communication. So as you can see, we configured trunk port here and switched the router. We added the sub interfaces, we did encapsulation, and then we added the IP addresses for the gateway, for the default gateway. And that was pretty much it for router on a stick. So that is essentially, when you do router on a stick, it allows you to have inter-VLAN communication, right? It allows you to communicate between VLANs, so you can have communication, in this example, VLAN 10 devices with VLAN 30, VLAN 30 devices, VLAN 20 with VLAN 10. So thank you so much for watching. This was router on a stick.